Thus have I heard. Once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way, seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Form is emptiness, emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, I dhatu up to no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the 3 times, by means of Prajnaparamita, fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth, since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way: Teata om gate gate paragate parasangati bodhisoha. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Jamnara Samarayampi Teata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangati Bodhisoha Maba Gonju Zanji Gai Dembe Doji Shi Lobo Doji Mibo Doji Shiwa Doji Dagi Baji Medum Biju Donji Shedingo Yezo Ngiri Ndon Yaji Joji Wada Medo Nube Yendan Jawada Dom Pa Jun Jim Pon Zon Zon Yo Yi Rashi Yane Nare Le Yo. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. Aye. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Idam Guru Radha Mandala Gamni Radayami.
Sanji Judan Tsuji
Jonam Yajo Mado Dani Yazoni Nagi Jini Dipezonamji Jola Menji Zanyi Rubarjo Jodan Ji Jonam La Yajo Mado Dani Yazoni Nagi Jini Dipezonamji Jola Menji Zanyi Rubarjo Jodan Ji Jonam La Yajo Mado Dani Yazoni Nagi Jini Dipezonamji Jola Menji Zanyi Rubarjo.
Watangala Nasulari Chimba, what into the Malari Chimba Karasukurita, Saji Jena Laja Tawashin, Tempisuta, then the Lutaja Remanije, then the Lucitaja Rebadala Taitna and Hibel and Bishu, and Nibajeta Lambisu. Tan Nibajeta Lambisuta, Chibichunga, Chibichunga, Tomo larger than Lojan Bisuta, and Rita Tomo larger than Chibichimi larger than Lojan Bisu, Sonle, Chibichunga. Tomo larger than Lojan Bisu. Tella Yason, Sambajan, Samba de Jebise, Tella Ludusewa, Sambajan, Modela, Jiden Shema to Jevatan, Jiden Shema de Tatemba. Jiden Shema de Tatemba, Jandu Tale, Deni Le, Jandu Che, Ta Jandu to Mashevala, Jandu Jo, Jazundu Jo, Jazundu, Jazundu Chu, Jazundu Laja, Jeon, Jetone. 다 저순들 하자들라 도안집을 하자다 맹안집을 하자 니지 도안집을 하자들 이생이 로즈마 다 맹안집을 하자들라 수수를 하자다 토목을 하자 니래 당가서 수수를 하자 가들레드 말베
So once again, we will be going over Lama Tsong-kha-pa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment. This, if we look at it from the outline, begins with how to rely upon the teacher that is the root of the path. And then a second part of the outline is how students train their minds after having relied upon the teacher, the stages of the path of the students after having relied upon the teacher. In that second sections of how students train their minds after having relied upon the teacher, we have 2 points that are made. An exhortation to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, and then the second point of how to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity. So in that second point of the outline of how to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, we find 3 major headings. First, training the mind in the stages of the past shared in common with beings of small capacity, training the mind in the stage of the past shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and then training the mind in the stage of the path for beings of great capacity. So that first section, training the mind in the stage of the past shared in common with beings of small capacity, there are 3 main points that are made. First, the actual training of thought of a person, developing or the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity. The second point is the measure of the attitude of a person of small capacity. And then the third point is clearing up any misconceptions related to a person of small capacity. So the first category, which is the actual training of thought of a person of small capacity, ends up having 2 points. Developing a state of mind that strives diligently for the sake of one's future life, or future lives, and then the second point of relying on a method or a means for achieving happiness in one's next life. So that's this major section we're under right now, developing, relying on a method or a means for achieving happiness in one's next life. And that section has 2 major headings. First, refuge, and then second, going for refuge, and then second, karma and its results. So we're in the section on Buddhist refuge, and that section has 4 points that are made. First, the causes for going for refuge. Second, based on that, the objects to which you go for refuge to. Third, how to go for refuge. And then fourth are the precepts or the advices that are related to refuge. So we're under that 4th section of the precepts or the advices that are related to refuge. And that section is explained by Lama Tsong-kha-pa by way of in 2 specific ways. First, according to the Compendium of Determinations, and there's 2 ways that it's explained in that section. And then the way according to the oral tradition. And then the oral tradition has the general and then the specific precepts. And we're in the section under the general precept section. 197 in English.
Yeah. What the Saji Lari Saji Tulwa Timon Hajatilla Tula Tunju Sunji Chaba Tang Yuen Jesu Tempe Yana and the Josun Tambuche.
Less so.
Taniba de la Kadin Jesu Tempe, Tuta to Chubala Junshin, Zawada Jayu Pujambi was. What the Niba de Marba. Kiji Jesu Tempe, Ruajan, Jandu Langoba, Suda Langoba. Shawa Gan Sheba Goba Yuena, Yabana, Tunju Sung La Chune, Soan Deshin, Jidin Bitajin Bons. What Shiba de Ba. Pension in Yilansung, San Lansung Do, Josun Doa. Tangabaji, Tunju Suki Shean, Shean, Matawa, Song Shaw, what the Tupati Bare. What Tangasu, Lan Richmond Mandova in a La Richmond and Asu Tambutimba. Tomongalaja la Drule, that the rule got a chinsaro. Tomongalaja la Drule, that Ladi Sajik Tunda Tambul Hegdua. Conjusunci Chabatan, Yente Jesu Temeyan and the Josu Duane, Canegil Secretary Duane, Hasheba Tara, Shabatan, Nabi Chabatan, Tessun Napensu. Conjusun Napensu Chabatan, T. Conjusun, then she began the other Josun draw. Jos Yana Yan Samba Tanjila, what the Sachi Tomatic to that Tanjiris. Taniba, Kadin Chamber Jesu Tembe, Tuita the Chobala, Junction Zawata, Jayu Pijambiwane. 띵엔지 잡을 손지 소나 제네 세냐장 telha shiba suminju she sumba tarosa hotel jebu duwa ta nga so nga wat khatul momdo marbe
Bless up.
kadin chembe jesu tembe tuita to ane konju sun chebal zon gures zawa da jayu pyu jang bewa ane kaba sondu sna do tinga jabale
Bless up.
sonji sona jene senya jang telha shiba suminju sanjil choba ma pyuna sanji ke se manye bata pyuna se nya den ka yo mare sanji ge den keba tama sun su san se nya gres choba pyoge na susul ane pyon gres tela sheba zum she zum ba taras wat kont jang doa kaje nya bi chen ran la dele ganjun tanje konchu ge ten do sheba shelas ran la dele ganjun da konchu kadimba sheba shegures
Bless up.
sheba zu sambe kadi chame yinza kadi chebetel ba sheba zuya ane sheba zuya ge cheto tene choba shawo choba bewa jusen teres maniba choba shawos whatever the rules in tel mayo mumdo.
Bless up. We have under the section of the precepts that are in common, or the general precepts, there are 6 general precepts, and then commentary that's given by Lama Tsong-kha-pa. First is by recalling the differences or the distinctions and the good qualities of the 3 jewels, go for refuge again and again. By recalling the great kindness of the 3 jewels, strive to worship them constantly and offer first offer your food and drink before you use it, or offer the first portion of your food and drink here, but we had clarification on first portion. It means first, before you use it. So the next third, establish other living beings in this practice by considering them with compassion. Whatever activity you engage in and whatever your purpose, make offerings and supplications to the 3 jewels, forsaking any other worldly methods. After you have understood the benefits, go for refuge 3 times in the day and 3 times at night. And maintain your refuge and do not forsake the 3 jewels even in jest or if it costs your life. So these are the 6, and then it begins with the first by recalling the distinctions or the differences and good qualities of the 3 jewels, go for refuge again and again. And this into the outline falls categorically under a continuous offering, the first of the types of offering. And it says, as previously explained, you should repeatedly keep in mind the differences between non-Buddhists and Buddhists, the distinctions among the 3 jewels, or the differences between the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and the good qualities or the excellent qualities of the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So here, one should one is going for refuge again and again, as we've gone over many times before. After recalling these points that are made, the distinctions and the differences and the good qualities, etc. So this is the first point that's made. The second point that's made, by recalling the great kindness of the 3 jewels, strive to worship them constantly and offer the first portion of your food and drink. So here, this is recognizing the great kindness of the 3 jewels, because of our temporary happiness and certain goodness and the excellent things that we have in our basis is due to the kindness of the Buddha, because it's due to our virtue, which is dependent upon the kindness of the Buddha. We recall that kindness of the 3 jewels, and then make offerings constantly with our food and drink, of our food and drink. So then, where does this come from? Lama Tsong-kha-pa quotes the King of Concentration Sutra, where it says, though they obtain food due to the Buddha's merit, the childish do not repay their kindness. So here, this word childish, I forgot last week, it means an ordinary being, not a superior. So I forgot to translate that last week, and I realized it when Rinpoche was doing it, so I just wanted to fix that error from last week. So here, the childish is referring to ordinary beings. It says, thus, knowing that all temporary happiness and certain goodness that you experienced, symbolized by food, are due to the kindness of the 3 jewels, you should make offerings with the intention of repaying their kindness. So decent.
That Della Tenova the Sajini Digdua, Tella Choba Shawayans, Kadin Chamber Jesu 10, Kadin Chamber Jesu, Kadin Chamber Jesu, Kadin Chamber Jesu 10, be Tutato, Chobola Zawa and Chayu Pujan Bua, Choba Della Yan, Choba Shawat and Shibi Sambani, Sajini Digdua, Choba Shawat Shibi Sambani, Choba Shawat la Jo, Shibi Samba de la Torendua. Choba Shawatele, Juduatima, Choba Shawatela Juji, Sanji Jukula Chuba, Chedin la Chuba, Monson to Chuba, Monson Miami Chuba, Rank Ladan Chuba, Jen Shedu Jubi Chuba, Rajetamun Chuba, Dumarbe, Tenajachi Chuba, Jachi Chuba Jede,
Yomon Miami.
Yamuja Miami Chuba, Tene Yamuja Mai, Ruby Chuba, Ruby Chuba Chuba Imba, what the Chut Teredua, what the Rose Laja and Pusapishi have gone.
So then, with regard to the offerings that one is making, so here it says symbolized by food or due to the kindness of the three jewels. So the things that we have are the excellent qualities and so forth that we have here are symbolized by food in this, but we recognize that all others are as well. You should make offerings with the intention. So one should have this in mind and wish to repay the kindness when one is making the offering. And then it says, with regard to offerings, there are 2 points: the actions of offering and then the attitudes of offering. The actions of offering have 10 categories. And then the attitudes of offering have 6 points that are made. So beginning with the actions of offering, there are 10. Rinpoche said people might already know these. We've gone over them. So they're offering to the Buddha's body, or to the Buddha's body, offerings to the stupas, offerings to the directly perceived, offerings to the not directly perceived, offerings made by oneself, offerings that you help others to make, offerings that are a combination that are made by yourself and that you help others to make. This is an in common, so that have both of those qualities. Vast offerings, offerings not contaminated with the afflictions, and then offerings of practice. So these are the 10 types of points that are made under the actions of offering.
What that and then Chuba Shawa de la, then the Swanji Kula Chuba la Suba, Chujaba is a Swanji Kutan, Chudin to Karicho Gurus. What happened?
That's so.
Karicho Gurusana, nearby the Kudicho Gurus, nearby the Kudicho, nearby the Good Waterma, Kudulu Rose Kanjana, nearby the Kudi, and the Sanjis and the Chudin Chubambu Gurus.
So then, when we look at this offering to the Buddha's body, offerings to the stupa, then the question arises, what is one offering? Then when we find the section in the great treatise on the stage of the path, on 198, it's actually enumerated as 7, but we're explaining this in a different way, where this number 7 isn't actually a number. This is an explanation of what one is offering. Number 7 is the offering that is the combination of made by yourself and that you help others to make. So it's just a different way to translate it. So page 198, offerings of wealth and service. This is just a commentary on what one is offering, as opposed to a number.
Ta nyeba da kuti choba nes ta tombo nyeba da naza da so black de to sumare to lu to serva naza da sheze da sana she putu to sumare sheze da zinche ane nye che to suja den da Noje sume dan, sume ji yuji dan, duba dan sa, nasa dan suna sa, men dan, men gari tu zin bare. Shema shubi pu dan, ta nga su mal ji shuwa dan do dan rabi yin bare ta. Shema shubi pu dan, matu ki tingwa dan, rumi dra dan, mami na su biwa dan, mami na su goba mawa, wata ba tu nyeba set wata ba tin sa ma. Nyeba dan kote, nyeba sana karar sana wate nyeba de sute, this will never logres. Cobra shows at the kind of good Kandeja Gurusana, good the Cobra show. Cobra Mawata Goba Mawata, Contour Michesanda, Gela Sandata, Sanjay Michesanda, what in the gate, Goba Maya, what to see, but Shatsawata, Monsu to Dawata, Tamajawata, Toba Natu, Jobata, Yula Shashawata, Yeshusu, Kurwata, Shinla Suba Seme Shebe, Jimbatan, Nabutan, Henchetan, Ponjen la Subi Jentan, Tana, Trebumbiwatan, Kashapan, Torwatan, Sebu Tin, Sanjay San, Ti Chuden la Chubawus, Neba the Gute, and the Sanjil Ti Chuden la Chubus, Sanjay San, Ti Gudil Chubawus, or things.
Then there are two categories then here, offerings of wealth and then offerings of service. So it says offerings of wealth are offerings to a Buddha or his stupa consisting of gifts of clothing, food, bedding, anything one would use at the sleeping time, and the seat or the bed itself, medicine, personal necessities, incense, aromatic powders and ointments, flower garlands, music, and various types of lamps. There are butter lamps. So this is categorically under the offerings of wealth. So if one says, what is the offering of wealth? These are some examples of what one is offering. Offerings of service, there is also offering respectful speech. So for instance, saying, oh, the precious teacher, the precious Buddha, saying respectful things. Prostrations, rising before the other, or standing up before the other person. Hands joined together respectfully, a variety of praises, obeisance with your limbs and head touching the ground, and clockwise circumambulation. Moreover, inexhaustible gifts such as fields can be given, as well as offerings of jewels, earrings, bracelets, and the like. At the least, there are offerings of bells, silver coins, or spools of thread. And then you can read it. These are what one offers to a Buddha or his stupa. These are the things offered to a Buddha or his or her stupa. These are the two categories of offerings of wealth and then offerings of service. Lesser.
And Ruby Choban Tana Panjuta Yang Chemejitan, Chuji Donjitan, Jason Tan, Pashin Jesu, Temba Tan, Samutomba Nila Majin, Matuba, Nebatan, Ting, Chutinla, Donsen Shibatan, Shanchu Shutan, Pashin Tan, Doaje. Gomba la Zumba Shawos, what the Mataka, Drubi Chuba, the Nalula, Semeji Goya, Tene, what the Mamudua, Tawakata, Shaja Goya, and then Shatu shooting Goya, and then Pashin, Ju Paradishibatan, Debi Paradishimba, Doje, what to say about Gongurus Marva, Drubi Chuba was what the Yemare. Malarebe what the Malarebe what the Sodua, Malarebe Tapun Dene, and then Kolaman Piache Maro, Nursanzi Bua Dalame, Palame Kadi Drubegis, Palama, Maba Lozi, Kadite, Konkajin Drube, Kajin Drubi Chube, never Shigres, Drubas or Timbere, and then Tawagata Shaja Goya, Shanchu Sangu, and Jebaina, and Suzuki again covered in the way with the Drubichu was what Timber, Drubichuba.
So the 10th point, offerings of practice, we find a large amount of information in here. It says offerings of practice entail recollecting the four immeasurables, the fourfold condensation of the teaching, the three refuges, the perfections, so the causal perfections, the resultant perfections, the three refuges of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Admiring emptiness and fixing on it without conceptualization, disciplining your mind through the vows of ethical discipline, and striving on and meditating for the factors of enlightenment, the 34, 37, or 39 factors of enlightenment, the perfections, and the 4 ways to gather disciples. Do this with great effort. So here, this offering of practice, so for instance, we find in the story of Milarepa, who did not have material things to offer, but was able to offer his practice and realized that it was due to the master's kindness that he was able to make this offering of practice. So because of the master's kindness, he offered his practice, and this was Tumarpa. What this means is offering the practices that you engage in, such as going for refuge or meditating on the mind that aspires to enlightenment. Bodhicitta pleases the guru. So when one is doing these practices, this is pleasing to the guru. So then this becomes an offering of practice. So in the Lamrim Duden, the Longare. So in the Lamrim Duden, Rinpoche's quoting, I'm just trying to find it, Rinpoche's quoting the Lamrim Duden and saying that there is the offering of the practices to the infinite masters that is found in the Lamrim Duden. I'll look it up at break, just because Rinpoche said just to say that it's found, this offering of service is found in the Lamrim Duden, the abbreviated stages on the path to enlightenment. The Tambo Sum Sa.
Tambo Sum Saji Tambo Sarwa.
Saji Tambo Nipa, the Tamo Laja. Tambo Nipa Kagi.
Saji no Saji Tumung Laja del Toyoba.
Then Giant Sheba Sache Tambo.
Mara ala Tambo Jirmachi Odinga Wuta. Choba Shawat Ji Marba. Shebi Sambat Nirwa.
Less so.
And Tamala Jude Choba said. What the Sonje Rwa. That Jirmachi no Son Dua. That the man Jaji with Judy on the Joe. Saji Judine, Jusonzo.
So the June Chupa, the Sumba got Lama Tsong-kha-pa Sumba Kagi.
Lama Sumba the Shebi Samba the Marva. Conjus on Saji Majabares, Tell Chuba Chongu Buba in a Sona Chibu Yungres, Jikatu Yundo de. And the Kona Mabares, Tell Sona Chuba Chuchu Madam Mambine and Pen Chibu Yungres. And then Jidian the Tantric Jeres, Conjus on the Chuba Bugina, Sona Chibu Yungre, Pen Marbe, Shebi Samba Sumba, Shebi Samba. Chuba Shawat, Shebi Samba, Larichaban Nibaro. What the Jaji with the Sumba Jango, Sumba,
less so.
One of
Okay. So if we're looking at the outline of the offerings, we find that Lama Tsong-kha-pa's, we have the actions of offering and the attitudes of offering. If we look at Joan Sheba's commentary, we have the continuous offering, the actions of offering, and the attitudes of offering. So there's a different enumeration depending on if we're looking directly at Lama Tsong-kha-pa's text or Jamyang Cheba's commentary.
Chöpa shawa dan shebi samba dan wa tu su kaban du na sanga ane hebe to me sai gwan ji no lu ten se du ba yis son son tene ma ta tene wa de shansa len jong wa tar chi ba wo sa contre wa ta tene ja ji bi ji ba de ji ba
du
ju ju ji Chöpa shawaji shebi samba song re sarwa ta jeba do den jang jebe neba da kuti chöden da sanji kuzu lu chöpa ina kadu chögurus ebten rebe
time
ebten abre wote tuji chaba tenguyus tuji chaba tele ta den wajel misi de duwa tuji chaba kuzu ang tengu da inche.
So that's good. So we are now on page 200 in the English. So if we look at the Jamyang Cheba's order, we are at number 3, continuous offering, or offerings that are always made, actions of offering, the attitudes of offering, and if we look at where these points come from, where the 10 types of offering and the 6 attitudes come from, we find it in a Sangha's bodhisattva levels, the bodhisattva bhumi. So this is where Lama Tsong-kha-pa has gathered his information from, is from his Sangha's text. So we're at number 3, basically, in Jamyang Cheba's order, and we're about to be in number 4. So when we ask, we have these different offerings of wealth and service. When do we make these offerings? So that question then arises. So this is the 4th category, the time of offering. And then Lama Tsong-kha-pa gives an explanation related to the time of offering that is in the number 4 category of Jamyang Cheba's outline. Diksan.
This way. What do you chaba dan jang jebe ten tu ju do ne sanji kuzu chöden do tu ju chogures an saga dawa da chobi tseji da tu chen to so ne choba zambur plus jelme chong dos ten ma teng dos what is it marbe
Saka dawa dang gai bugai
saga dawa to so tu chen la umar tu chen to choba yaga plus every sa to tu na an choba digo ro ta ane tuichen tosul choba teze yaga pyus tuiji cheba tada cheriba shalas tuiji cheba jerim chukuron duwate tuiji cheba ne tada cheriba shalasa choba kazi pyu tudu saya tonga tozu pyu tuizan dan tuichen jitsa nasi tuizan dan tuichen sagan dawa dan chubi seji sanda dan watandiki tsina rangi nyoba dan tunbi choba zambur shawos tuzang sagan dawala suba tuzang sezang tse ane susu nyoba dan tune choba zambur pyu ures wad jermi te songdus.
So here it says you should always make the best offering you can. Make especially good offerings on auspicious occasions and holidays to the best of your ability. Furthermore, since you constantly have to eat and drink, always offer the first portion of your food and drink. If you do this without fail, you will easily amass a large collection of merit. Thus, from the depths of your heart, always offer the first portion of whatever you consume, even water. So in this section, it speaks of 2 different points. Offerings that one makes all the time, that one uses every single day, such as food and drink and other things, making those continuously. But then there are those bigger offerings that one can make on specific special days because of the power of the day increases the amount of merit that one is getting by making the offering. So here, during times such as the month of the Buddha, Sakadawa, or during other Chenmo, great times, literally translated like times of greatness or great times, so holidays or special days on the calendar. And Rinpoche gave the example of the month of Buddha Sakadawa. These times are times when if one is going to offer something grand, one does it on those kind of occasions because of the greatness of the merit one accumulates because of the power of the day, the greatness of that day. But it says the normal things offer constantly. Every time you use them, offer first before you use them, and not the first portion. Before you use them, first offer these things that you constantly use. And here examples are of food and drink. So that's number 4. So the number 5 category, I read in English, but the number 5 category, if you do this, furthermore, since you constantly eat and drink, always offer the first portion of your food and drink. If you do this without fail, you will easily amass a large accumulation of merit. So here, this is categorically a small effort that amasses a large amount, or that it allows you to accumulate a large amount. So something small that allows you to accumulate something large. And here we're speaking of a large amount of merit, amass a large accumulation of merit. So since we always have to have food and drinks, we can always make this offering. So this small offering becomes great because we're doing it constantly. So this is number 5.
Number 6
is appropriate offering. That's the next one we're getting into.
Biwa kunji chang du se wan dawa re mon she sharaye sondu lin jongos water ndo wate manda bi shu water ndo ta ka ta khala ru ba dang water so ma bi song de sa re tu ji mo sa so de ba go de tu se ne do chora do de ne yo re an chang so de ru so na mo bi cha yong ru water so ma bi song de da ma ru so na ma mo bi cha ne re ta ka de sa to kari ina cheba bi ya to ru ba to bi ju ma
Less so. So here, not offering the inappropriate or offer the appropriate. So not offering the inappropriate here, we find very little information, but we find a quote from Sharawa. It says, "Do not offer things such as moldy cheese, sweet cheese, and yellowed leaves, but use what you have that is good. Offering the first portion of tea will not be beneficial if it is done like clearing away some dust." So sometimes you'll see offerings are made of a block of cheese or of butter. One should offer only the best. One shouldn't offer cheese that has sections of green mold on it. Rinpoche says, they say blue, the name blue for green in these cases. So anything with blue or green on it, or any butter with this blue color or green on it, we don't is not considered an appropriate offering. It would be an inappropriate offering. So not offering things that are rotten and things like that. And then previously in the offering of service, of practice rather, section, Rinpoche quoted the Lamrim Duda, and it says, then after you've taken refuge, you should see that the root cause excellently propitious for as great a mass of good fortune as possible for this and future lives is proper zealous devotion in thoughts and actions to your sacred guru who shows you the path. Thus you should please him by offering your practice of exactly what he says, which you should not forsake even if it costs your life. So here in the Lamrim Dudan we find the offering of practice to Chena. So number 6 is not offering the inappropriate. Going back to the Jayan Sheva outline.
단장아집이 어디 사지 다 듄바 사지 듄바로 사지 듄바데 초발을 급이주들다 초발을 급이주다 신사 example 신사신바 근데 신가 사제 도자지여바 이나 야부 여바 이나 근데 신가들에 너도 받다도 되서 야부다 그러다 다 안셀레도 또 미자도 Silang Then Patadu de Sol Matabaje, say Dudu Mami can do by in a pen to Maruta. Example. But then Najin as pauses and Marav. Pauses and Ia Gun Ji Jete and then Bujupio was a marbe. Bujupio. And also Bujupio Yashute pauses and dress. Pauses and the le Guayabu. Rutuna and Pensibu Yungre, pauses in the Guayab Duma Tubaje, and then what the pauses in the Guayab Dutuba shoes, Pananta Basanche, Pentumares. Pananta pauses in the Swaji Sumba Naji, and the Gawatu Yabuduma Tubaina, and the Pombres, Pombres, what the Sumati is a marbe. Shinsa Shin to Shimbas, what the Egypt to Makalej Duna. Kale kabas kayam wote shinsa shin basya derwa dumba der marba dumba
mingare the sache mingare Jayan Sheva dumba mingare
chobala kubitsu chobala kubitsu konju son choba biala gabu gogoro da gabu yuma taji kali waris gabu yuma ke sal kartang waris ane example jiane ane ngazu shinka jueba ina ane kon bio rice bio yoroda what the sole tontu batadule tusul tawuro tusul matabache chetsadu medu lengur matmami balen ba ina ane tenda yongo marwa tawdu tusul yabta lendu tusul se ab malen bache ngai shinka dele ane kon yabu yongo shu rice yabu yongo example pauses in the Bujupio de la and then as you have you watched Malata Malata Guadamarubaina and Pombres. What the Santa Baina contributes to Kabu.
So the number 7 is the I'm trying to figure out the exact name that you would use, but the need to recognize that it's a continuous field of merit that can be accumulated. So the commentary is that if one has a fertile field, and that fertile field is planted on in a season that isn't the time for planting, it becomes an infertile field or a bad field. So in the case of a field, one has to plant in order for it to produce corn or rice or whatever one is planting. One has to plant in the appropriate season. One can't plant it in the wrong season. Now looking at the field of merit, when we're looking at the fertile field that gives rise to certain goodness and temporary happiness, we're looking at the field of the jewels. And here, this is a field that is always fertile and can always be utilized to accumulate merit relative to. So one can always accumulate merit related to the field of this field, whether it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. So this isn't a field like a normal field that has a specific time that one can accumulate, one can reap the benefits. Here, in the case of a normal field, would be corn and rice. In the case of the field of the merit that we're speaking of, the accumulation would be the actions that give rise to these things, are the virtuous actions that give rise to all temporary happiness and certain goodness. So here we are related to the jewels in the field of merit. We are able to constantly sow the seeds of virtue and then reap the benefits or reap the fruits of that virtue, which are temporary happiness and certain goodness at all times. It's not related to a specific time. But if one recognizes that this field of merit can constantly produce results, one has to engage in the actions to produce those results. Just having faith and making aspirations for the accumulation of virtue to happen won't make it happen. One actually has to engage in the actions. Now I'll read the way that it's written in English, but the meaning behind it is that a fertile field isn't fertile unless it's planted on in the right season. The field of merit is always a fertile field, no matter what season it is, winter, spring, summer, or fall. One has to actively engage in the accumulation of merit. One can't just, with faith or prayer, wish for it to occur. So that's the meaning behind this. And this categorically is number 7, and it is recognizing that one is always can sow these seeds of virtue, and then one will see the need to do so by thinking of these facts. The word need is in Jayan Cheba's outline. So there's a need for this thought to arise that one can continuously accumulate this virtue winter, spring, summer, and fall at all times. So for example, it will not work just to put seeds on a fertile field without actually planting them in season. So it is appropriate continuously to plant the seeds of temporary happiness and certain goodness throughout the 4 seasons in the fertile field that gives rise to all temporary happiness and certain goodness in this and future lives. But you till this field with the plow of faith. So that's how the translation reads, but Rinpoche is given the word-by-word meaning of this stanza, and the meaning is just a touch different than it would read into. So I'm making the distinction for that reason.
Chenrezig naji chu Tsong bi zamalata sudi zama naka tatu majebi chodan shinda chetawa chola meda nyejebi naba meba to maji jeson bata rosa wa de chobala kubitu to de dengadus chobala kubitu de
explanation of the need for offering gupitsu. So
this one. What things are that the high mother the Jangadua? Chaba Bezage, Shinchu to Juba, the Shajatuba, Conjuson Lava Yomares,
Lesso,
Conjuson Lava Yomare,
Lesso,
Nakatatubi, and the Chaba never the good Mamu are there. There's Sanjil Pen at the Noya Yomaris, and the Suzu Pugina, Suzule, Sonam Grace, what the Sunday Samarbe.
Rinpoche, NGK the Tsik Tama Pemba Dang Nupa. The Ire. Naka
Chodan Shinda, Chetawa, Chola Menda, Nyejibi, Naba Meba, too much. Naka Tatu Shinda, Makuta Mamu
Lesso.
Take Sanjil Paya, the Noya Maruta. The Susan Don Pugina. And the Suzula Payon, what the Nison is a marvel.
Then nupa donda gare sena.
Never
Nupa.
hump.
Gare shene the chishinenge donda yabushime.
Tenda hump, never in hump.
Then the gare shene de.
Nakata to Shinta Matu, Chuta Mamu
Less
This
so.
is Swanjil Pangamaro, not benefit,
Less so.
no hump.
Less so.
This is not
Okay, so then we find a quote from the praise and honor of one praise and honor of one worthy of honor. It says, no field of merit is like you. No field of merit like you exists in the three worlds. You are the supreme recipient of gifts, the pure one who makes a row of monks pure. Just as the height and breadth of the firmament have no limit, there is no limit to the fruition of helping or harming you. So this word firmament, I was listening, is just space in Tibetan. So, just as the height and breadth of space has no limit. We got the word before, but I'm listening to the Tibetan. It's a very simple word, space. There is no higher field of merit in all of the three worlds than the Buddha. And here we're in the three jewels section. It says the pure one. So pure one is referring to the ethics, ethical discipline, the perfection of the perfect ethical discipline, who makes a row of monks pure. Just as there is no limit to space, and it's Rinpoche is saying that there's no limit to the offerings of those flowers and no limit to the fruition of helping or harming you. The Nanka, the water tree. So in Middletown, there's many different trees and water. We're going to try and get the meaning. And flowers, everything. There's many of these. So this isn't beneficial to the Buddha. It doesn't harm the Buddha either. So it's this so the limitless space is the same. So number 7. That's number 7. Always the Jepa.
Tagit sarwa naba meba too much jeson bataros chobal kubitu sa trobat saje trobal duba saro ta jeba shinsa chula tamebi shingi tunza meba ne ugi to zanwa mundu be kontu chobala tu tanje tu chamba shaus what jeba re jeba de Janji Biwate, Jena Bone, Chobala Zombas, Jena Bone, Chobala Zombas Train Water. Jenas and Taras Marva, Masu Shoba Buza Mother, and then Kajiki, Shin Choban Bugare, Kajiki, Logo Detail Choban Bugare, and the Kashi Yamal Choban Bugare, what the conjunction Choba Jenda and Buza Mumuro. The Jena Choba Buza to the rest. The two usual Shin Town. 사도 주ba with pentu yoma use jena bone konju son le choba me ures jena bone konju son choba la chomba so what saji jeba de jeba.
So the 8th category is to make offerings only to the 3 jewels, exclusively to the 3 jewels. So there's other objects of offering. People make offerings to local deities, some to trees, some make offerings to stars and the sun. So here, this was specific, since there's no other field of merit It's differentiating between an ordinary field and the supreme field of merit, and stating that this is the what we make offerings to, the 3 jewels. So with being specific in number 8 of making offerings to the supreme field, which is the 3 jewels. So this offering to the supreme field, and then referring to 3 jewels. So we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back. So just real quickly, going to this quote here, it's a little bit different. I was looking at it at break. It says, just as the height and the breadth of space is limitless, as are the water and trees. It says, these don't hurt or harm him, therefore there is no limit to the fruit. So that's literally what it says in the Tibetan. So I just translating that. Decent. So number 8 is offering to the supreme.
Jeba jena pone chobar zombas jena pone chobala zombas de yimba tata shena shinsa tambala gza twem mare shinsa chula tamebi shingi tongza meba nes shinsa chu ane choba beza chu gonju zondere yula jeda tongamdus tongza meba de shira teze aso doja yunga Nekares, Sadoji Gudus, Tonza Maban de Yuki, Tozan, Mendubes, Otusan Tamayina, Natuliabu, Mayu Taris, Mendube, Conju Chobala, Tutanji to Zomashaus, Chobabusa, Chutu Choba, the Conju Sondre, Tuta, Conju Son Chobal Zongures, what there, Jeba.
Let's hope.
Chuba bisa taga tu yu shu jebata chimen tu maris nemadan dawa de shin da chuba menu chena to nes yu gures tane konju son chuba la chuba shawu wotereja.
So the next is offering only to the supreme, this 8th point. This 8th point, it says, since our practice is such that we cannot even think of a supreme field of merit as we would an ordinary field, we should always strive to make offerings to the three jewels. So here, this is offering only to the supreme objects of offering, and here the supreme object of our offering, or who we offer to, is the 3 jewels. Here it's saying, throw away any other offerings, or don't. Rinpoche said yushu, which means throw it out. Throw out the other offerings one would make to trees, or to stars, or to the moon, because there is no other higher object of offering than the 3 jewels. So dismiss every other type of offering and strive to only make offerings to the 3 jewels because they are the supreme basis. Number 8. Number 9.
Goba tereta goba de tera chebe ngoto dangelis tata chebe tata shena shin tambala gaza na konju son choba mege yena tata shena shin tamba konju son sanju konju chu konju gnu konju sombotele gaza tumbi tole konju son choba mege yena ane gawa mo sagre ti tola tole lange remba na la lo jeje sun yu sa ane lang remba chebe chungu la ding la chebe chimbi la to su ngolo neba kale ya jengures to de peyongures modu saldan jeje banaje to jeje dun yu sa yu Niana Timizin Sana Damago, Naguna Jula Meji, Louis Toshin to Chung Yu Tuso, Shing Tola Temba, Manga Yinos, Manga Yin, Shing Tola Temba, Manga Yinos, Kazan was the Tashak Tuatan to Goba de Goba de Le. One Shin Tamba del Chuban Bugi and a Gazach Yungre, and then Kasugre, then Chibuchung Lantan D. Lantuzo, Goatan. Su kali ya jeyungres jeje sun ruye nian na simizin 대상그 뒤서 답을 ane ngaso duso ma nyema cha ne nyomo nyema se nyema du nyema tande duso zena tse mezis ngaso lonzi jege ina ane lonzi de yongo maris tane zena tse mezin sana temo tanda san tamba ina tanda gogo maris gogo ina shene dal haton tan heje tan shachu sen jul je akale khabaris maji duso res maji duso ina tetabi tu ngaba te tu so ane sing tola temba de mangares sing tola temba so su ngone zona simezi ane sana tamo go gona julmeji ne ba ba ina ya konju son joba be ina konju son sing tole ane tabi la dendru la sanju go to la to ya jewa ji yo ares what is one de sare
then gopa mingare
goba teresa
giant sheba
tata chebe sa janje tata chebe ngoto tangale tata chebe ngoto tangale tobas tata chebe kojo son choba begi na ane dendu lanya le je tugre sadami tezan tugre dendu tabi lanya le je tugre taba yongre ane teba chebe lanya je to ba izo saji yongre so ta sanmarbe.
So the ninth category deals with the question, the section that Stasha had a question about last week, and it's relying on the power of the field of merit. So here it says, by doing so, our mind's power with respect to the stage of the path will increase as a result of the strength of roots of virtue grown in this excellent field of merit. Therefore, when our mind's power is so weak that we cannot retain the words when we study, understand the meaning when we reflect, or gain knowledge when we meditate, we should rely on the power of the field of merit. So the basis, the field of merit here is referring to the three jewels, the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel. And here it says, by making offerings to this powerful field of merit, one's power will increase with respect to the stages of the path. So one's ability to engage in the stages of the path shared in common with beings of small, medium, and great capacity will be able, shared in common with beings of small and medium capacity, and then the teachings for beings of great capacity will be able to become clear. So one will be able to achieve the higher realm rebirth through the pathways to the higher realms. One will be able to achieve liberation or nirvana through the pathways to liberation or nirvana, and one will be able to achieve complete Buddhahood through the pathways to Buddhahood. So here, this becomes a very powerful object to increase our abilities with respect to our practice. So we should make supplications. We should rely upon this power of the field of merit. So here, this is the ninth category. The power of the field of merit is probably the best way.
다 zona timi sana demo guna jula meche deso tetabole shingi tola tene solo yabu chongres solo yabu chongres na pade ma holo yabu chongres lumen bawo ayande wa tsuene ko mati ta segro mati ta ayande wa ni nal tral tsuene tsuedu lo de mati ta le ma khos mati ta la gro ta ma khol ma khol wa khon long dang do.
Okay, so then we have, so it says this is a personal instruction. So that was the question before. You could also say this is in the oral tradition, or this is oral, the oral instruction. So it's just saying this is what's passed down in scripture. And then it says, here we have a quote from Lopung Bawo, or Arya Shura. It says, Sri Marchaketa also says, and Marchaketa is another name for Arya Shura. And Arya Shura was a non-Buddhist who debated Arya Deva and was defeated and then was converted to Buddhism in Nalanda times. So this is a quote from Arya Shura.
크루여서 도발레 메티베 다루 젠다 그걸로 쥐네 코케베 이제로와 아니 그 아말라네 당 앞에 케바시 차유스다 ngaso dwal kanga chue nga khe chabe is ama lo de ama ge tanda chue khe ma chue nalen dal sandas nalen dal chue ne chue khe khe is ane medita nalen dal ta nalen dal what the nalen dal de medita chue tu ge khe ba me kale khabu nalen mo se ke ngobo koros nalata soma yero ngobo koros jimpu ane yegiti ane ngobo ludu da ayando lusulu yero ane ngobo gi shengal yegiti ja ante ludu da ayando purunas ane medita ande yone ngasu kale kabuzundos
Nika Perona Nicha
te is tu ludu yero
so Tambo okay Lodru.
Then Nalenta Soma Tugal Sharuj Deo, Sharu the Yagit Kin, Lusul, Lungobulu Chiruta. Gobulu Watanga Donamato Pentumus, Nalenta Kabuzus. And I am dog, Chunopeg woman being 100 degrees. Then I am dog pen, I am dog when it's and I am dog what the Middletown to the Terra, that's what the chain. And then Nalenta Tabato Kunjune, Nalenta Lebanon, Tsong-kha-pa. And could Bashad Molodi, then all that. Remember Lontain, what Lontain Tone, then could Shaba Pine, Co Matiba, Nambal Kajo, the Angatambo, Oma Tanju.
Okay. Con Kepa Chaso. So the story with the great master Aryashura is as follows. Aryashura was in the area that he lived in, became very famous for being the greatest scholar. He was able to out-debate and out-logic everyone who was in his area, and he went to his mother with great pride and said, I am the greatest debater, I am a great scholar. And his mother said, you can't state that until you've gone to Nalanda. Nalanda was a great university of scholars for Buddhist studies. So she said, you'll have to go there and debate there in order to say that you are this great scholar. So he went to Nalanda Monastery to prove his worth, to prove how great a scholar he was. And everyone there became quite scared and had difficulty, actually, with debating him because he was very intelligent. So they met and decided to write a letter and invite first Master Nagarjuna to come to help with this person, to debate. And so they had a meeting, and then the protector deity of Nalanda Monastery transformed into a bird and carried this letter to Master Nagarjuna. And Nagarjuna got the letter, and he thought maybe it won't be so good if I go myself, and I'll send Aryadeva, who is one of his root disciples. So Aryadeva then went to Nalanda Monastery and debated Aryashura, and defeated him in debate, logicked him and defeated his premises and defeated him in debate. And then he was Aryashura was put into the library, almost like locked in the library of Nalanda Monastery. And then he began studying all of the tenets and the texts. And when they came back to get him, he had been converted to Buddhism, and then had in his lifetime then became one of the greatest living scholars in Buddhism, and then wrote these things as a result of his conversion and realizing the truth, the truths of Buddhism. And not only was he a great scholar, he was the greatest scholar in the category of the highest tradition of tenets in the Madhyamika Prasangika view, the middle way consequence school.
Da namba jegi shabu pugis ola lama dujne bache 35 de shoji na jmede what the medita leben bawu samro da namba le shabu pugo da ko namba le shabu pugo da ko namba jegi ola lama dujne bache mla so shoji na jebe shabu jmede 35 da yod.
Oh, okay. And we find in the 35 Buddhas of compassion, this supplication that's made by depending on you. I can find it in the Tibetan, but by depending on you, my mind is converted, and so forth. So in the 35 Buddhas, we find this aspiration as well, as Meti Dayans. I can look it up in a moment.
What the Middletown Shinga then the Middletown Leabjon Boris, Tatayang, Peden Makujis, Tatayang, Peden Makujis, Lumabau Sagadus, Hanga Tunla, Kitchambo, Hanga Tunla, Kitchambo, Chula Dene, Daglo, Yajidu, Chutar, Chongo, Shinto, Pio, Juro, Sheson Bataros, and Sanji Chuki Shinga Tola Dene. And the Lama Pau the Tsong Trial Shirakiba Konava Macha Kon Tsong Trial Down, Number Chatsane, Tsong Trabachina, Shirak Vayajidus, the Swaji Katins, Shingatolatene. What the rest of that? Jason Vataros.
So then it says, by depending on you, Bhagavan, so my mind, though weak, has broadened like a river in the rainy season, attaining great skill in composing poetry. So here it's saying, by relying on you, which I previously didn't, O Bhagavan, my weak mind has just broadened because of my reliance upon you, and as a result, its ability has increased like a river in the rainy season, and I've attained this great skill in composing poetry. So here it's saying that because of depending on the Buddha, this has happened. His mind's abilities, his intelligence has increased.
What the Gopa Kadu to Terua? That Choba de Choba Cheba to Chuchu to Karita was na Choba Kurun Tayo, Sen Cheba is Sen de Nebachibayona, Choba Chibichan, Shanju sang Simba, what the Choba Bibaina, Choba Chibichan, no Buki Cheba Mares. What the So
the next is the 10th category is the motivation. It doesn't matter how big or small the offering, or how big the offering is. It matters how the motivation behind the offering, what the motivation behind the offering is. So for instance, if one has the mind that aspires to enlightenment or bodhicitta, then that offering becomes a great offering, no matter the size, because it is the motivation is there, the positive motivation is there.
Chumbu Tayo Marvati, Chumbu Chiparota, Chum Batalen, Saint, Nietu, Raje, Shansen Sundi, Chumbu Son Pibaina, and the Shanju Semi Chubat Jachishu, the Sang Chesho. What did they do?
So here the point is that if we look at the three categories of practitioners, the hearers, the solitary realizers, and the bodhisattvas, if, for instance, any among them, they all offer a butter lamp. So if every one of them offers a butter lamp, the root virtue accumulated by the hearer is the smallest amount of virtue. The root virtue accumulated by the solitary realizer is the next level, or a medium. The word medium wasn't used. The next level of virtue, and then if a bodhisattva offers it, then this is the greatest level of virtue, of root virtue that's accumulated. And it's because the motivation, or the thought of offering, the thought behind offering, literally, the thought while offering, is different in those cases. So each of the individual practitioners' abilities, if you will, are different. Therefore, the amount of root virtue that's accumulated is different.
That number Jigchumu, Yeshuba Jigchumu, Hindu Jigchumu, and the culture the summer Jumpuina, Ko Saul Marai Wangi Gazat Marai Yezero, and Davi.
The Yeshu Dang Hindu.
Hindu Tanga, number the Ganga Chumura Bubaina. Ko Saul Wangi go up Marai.
So if we find the offerings in all the traditions, so we have offerings of Christians and Hindus and Buddhists, but the thinking's different. So that's the meaning behind this. The thinking of the offering's different, therefore it's different.
So
this is number 10 according to Jayan Sheba, the thought while offering, or the motivation.
What the Dajermachi, what is an Chubagobola Mato and Tebala Tuba ins Conchu Tin Town what to Domo Johnson what to say. Teba Yuena, Nobupia, Dachi Mebaina, Mendipia, the Chutan, Le Mazon yu Chebas, Le Mazon yu Chebala Subi Chan, Chube, Sanzi Men Tatashasa. And Dabe Mazun Modu Sula Subatus Puna Rigros and Tatasha Asa, Pua Mena Pua Yujin do Tom Menu Bus, Pua Yujin to Mapibache, Dan Sonoma de Tigente, Chubi Dala Jamashi, She Sawa Nensa. But do you, Shene Tompur Tamachin Shito? Pompe de Tane, Zene Aga Peji Cho, Shesa, Milungi, Mendelango Guru Sheba, and Rausa. What does Pia Mena, Mandata Chutan, Dabe Masmotus Pina, and the Davis, Ejimi Pia Gomares, Negonchutin, the Waters Maria, what is the Datu Masmotus Pina, and Dilson. And the social usually my people in and the person no one person as a person prepare bureau that is it down what the patient is content by in Milwaukie me about go to Tabandabres.
Less so.
Put you some of those.
Less so.
What did it at the Juba the Marva?
The Tepa dang Gulung, cheaper, the Donda. Tepa, it is taught that offerings are not determined by the material objects offered, but by your faith. Thus, if you do not have material possessions to offer, then offerings of mandalas and water or of things not held as property and the like will suffice if you have faith. Some have possessions but are unable to give them up, quoting the verse as, I have no merit, I am poor. I have no other wealth for offerings. This is, as Potawa said, like a blind person trying to fool a sighted person by dropping a bit of sod incense into a smelly cup, saying, this is water is scented with sandalwood and camphor. So here, if you do not have material possessions to offer, so if you legitimately do not have them, here I asked Rinpoche if this word faith, it's faith in the Tibetan, but sometimes Tibetan words have multiple meanings in English. If this word faith could be like the word for motivation, that is another word in Tibetan. I asked him in Tibetan, and he said similar. So just keep that in mind as I read the word faith. So thus, if you don't have anything to offer, it's sufficient to offer mandalas, water, things unowned, and so forth. But I'm going to do the meaning from here on. If you do have things to offer, and then you don't, and say, well, I really don't because I'm poor, I don't have anything to offer, then this would be like somebody blind trying to fool a sighted person by putting some incense powder in something dirty and saying this is wonderful offering of scented water, when the person with sight can see clearly what's happening. So that's the meaning behind this, is that if you don't have anything to offer, if your faith is appropriate, you can offer things unowned and mandalas and the sort. If you do have things to offer, you should offer them because you can't fool the objects of your offering, basically. They know you have something to offer. Decent. Number 11 now.
ngabich pures
No
you member you member sa
You may.
you member
Salvador.
komi jesu no jebu tamang hama soge kande pyo ba ina tandrabich pures komi jesu komasne jebu tamang hama lagro ta ne chibi ngab you member komi jesu la chunes sui jesu la pachung 네 가당비 계시냐 표충원 하시지 그래서 젊으시 송도 스타 표충은 다 담보 냐래 제고여다 담보 되는 부상상 뭐뭐뭐 어때 표충원 냐래 나지 가서 어떤 나지 제고를 송대서 되던다들
So this next one is your possessions will not decrease; they will only increase. And then we find where does this come from? From Punchoa, who originally didn't have very much means, but was only able to offer incense. And then he was able to get better and better and better incense and more incense as a result of the merit accumulated, and then was able to offer large amounts. So the next point is that there won't be a decrease in your things or possessions. It's something to that effect. Number 11. So it says,
Tata agarutan turka la soba pu sawa chibutu rawe jirota son ching beju bu son batar ane choba chung la te ne mapinas choba pya chuchung madu mapi ba ina serambo tanda shi dundula sa choba pya chuchung madu mapi ba ina ane masa takarang rores ane chungri choba chuchung madu mena te piba ina chungri ne ten je ne jezang dun ruye kongi shalen tar lade kong ware ta pachung nyale pipi nyale najin ane nga su wote najin she wores chungri ne ten je ne jezang dun ruye ane kongi shalen tar lade pachung shalen tar nyale she wores kongi reji la sesan nishu tani je pyo jakes kongi ne tuse ji le tene sesan nishu tani ki pyo nyone pyo ba injera jakes wote chuji batresha.
Okay, so this is number 11. Puchonwa said, "First I gave sod incense with a sharp odor. Next I obtained sweet-smelling long sticks of incense made from 4 substances to give. Now I give aromatic akara, turukska, and the like. Thus, if you despise small offerings and do not give them, your entire life will pass in that way. However, if you make earnest effort in stages, beginning with small things, conditions will improve. You should practice as Punchoa did. It is said that one occasion he made a preparation of incense worth 22 gold coins." So here, the advice is to give in stages. Even if you initially only have a very small amount to give that very small amount. And then in stages, your ability to give more will increase as a result of this offering. So it says, so here it's saying that you shouldn't think that it's not good to give a small offering. So this despise, you shouldn't think, oh, this is too small of an offering, I shouldn't give it. You should think of it as I'm giving this offering so that I can, in stages, increase my offerings more and more and more. I hope that's clear. So you shouldn't think this is too small, you should think this is part of the stages working up to something more in a looser way. So that's the meaning behind that.
What that
So now we're at number 12.
초시 메자와사 다 저번 비디오 다 다가다간디 뭐지 다 그거 다가다간디 초시 어떤 제주에 말이지다 초시 메자와스 안에 초시 저번 비알 초시 제야요 말이스 안에 오한도 비상주 삼바 안에 사담은 주비바 상주 삼바도서 안에 고도 오한도네 안에 le monta mamutu sanjig shinkan monta mamul pene chobambu ne tanda ane chushi meba chobambu goares ngachu tejun buya meba chushi jeba inote tusulana yabu mares gaba sunjire gaba.
So this next one is a limitless or a vast or a limitless or great offering, a mutable offering maybe. So like a limitless offering. So here, this is referring to the great beings. We would have difficulty doing this. But for instance, a bodhisattva on the first ground is able to emanate 100,000 bodies to 100,000 different Buddha fields. And make offerings to those Buddhas and so forth. So here this is referring to that kind of vast ability to make a limitless offering. So this is number 12, right? Yeah, Juni, 12. Limitless. At some point I'm going to get the text to be able to get the exact wording, but the meaning of it is limitless or vast or that's it. And then we'll read into the commentary.
Samba Chembo Naji, Le Monta Tomato Badans, and the Kutu, Le Monta Tomato Tugres, Le Laba, Jaton La Suba Tute, Shinkantan Sanji, Shinkantan Kutupe Tugres, Shene, Jawana La, Keba Toma, Choban Buguares, Choban Zeguares.
Lesser.
And then Natsu to the Choba Chujil, the Gadman, Digger Chuje Jena, and these are the best, and Digamaris. Yuen Tana Chongse Re, Choshe Shebata, Ku Jatata, Tatabula, Shanchu Marishim Hawane, Chuji Shinto, Chongyu, Pojulos, what the Gabajin, the Gagadua. Chebal Choshe Chesa, Digama, the Gagadua.
Chongshe.
다 줘봐 다가 비는 이걸 몸을 구워 말았을 라고로다. 조시지서 그 갈레루조도 세부도
So then it says, great beings who have gained control over material things emanate many hundreds of thousands of bodies, each of which in turn emanates hundreds of thousands of hands. So this is referring to those bodhisattvas on the 10 grounds, those kind of beings. So this is what it would be referring to. Visiting all the Buddha realms, so visiting all the Buddha fields, they make offerings to the conquerors for many eons. So they can do all this while others settle for small achievements that look good and say, I do not expect enlightenment through making offerings. This is the nonsense of those who have little exposure to the teaching. Thus we should do as it says in the Cloud of Jewels Sutra. So here it's stopping the idea, it's negating the idea that one can't get enlightened by making offerings, because we see that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who can make these vast offerings of 100,000 bodies and 100,000 hands do so. So these great beings do so. So we shouldn't think that making offering is a small achievement and therefore not going to produce enlightenment. So it's the negation of this idea that a small offering isn't really going to produce enlightenment. So that's number 12. It's the negation of this idea when one sees that limitless offerings are made by great beings, that offering itself doesn't produce those results. So the category would probably be more like, we're going to just leave it with the meaning at that for now, instead of adding more that could be wrong. So now we're at number 13.
조선 바와데 대나 서도 대나 건축진레스 건축진 다마 모친사소 건축진레 노드나레 쳐바다 렌로 자초와 강이마 뜻다보다 녀지 뜻다보다 녀지 뜻다 니타바네 안에 라비 삼바 추기 상제된 상주 삼바나라 호 셰송바타로스 어디서도 다 건축진레 어디서도 노드나레 쳐바다 니아바다 고데 마부송요로 어디서 근갈로 야바 녀네 셰바제 우도스 도스 셰바제네 도스 셰바제 노드나레 쳐바다 렌로스 쳐바다 렌로 니아바다 고데 쳐바다 렌로 사이 쳐바 메 렌로 워드는 레발든 제자제루 쳐바다 렌로 니아바다 고데 렌로 메 렌로 하이 쳐봐 메이ren로 아니 단돌레 아니 쳐봐다 렌루샤 메이ren루샤 자쳐보 자쳐 뭐무슨요 송송바다 송갈로 야분예네 도시 셰바제 우레스 도시 셰바제 뜻다보다 녀지 뜻다보다 녀 마녀네 셰마로 야분예네 조송공제네 도시 야부 셰바제 우레 녀네 야부 셰바제 우레 셰사소나 다다 쳐바다를 히 타바네 사비 삼비 상루 자체비 투네 그 안에 삼바 추기 사제당 샤주 삼바나로 호스 삼바 추기는 사제디 샤주 삼바나로 호그래 쳐바베고 어디서 말해
Then Jusumba Hua? Jusumba Giant Sheba, Jusumba. They Jusumba. Then the Mingare.
Jusumba then Noa.
Giant.
Cheba Genji Cheba Genji Chusa. Cheba Genji Chusu. Cheba Genji Chusu what the Imbare. Dodin Sumbi Cheba Dan, Rendu Dan, Mamuson Jabba Yabne, Chuson Guzon, Yabu Shebaje, Shesa Sona, He Tabane, Tabi Samba Chuki, Sanji Sanju Sambanala.
Okay, so this is number 13. And this is after having listened to and studied well the acts of vast offering, sincerely dedicate these offerings and acts of service before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So dedicating these acts of offering and service. So it says, study any of the vast offerings. So here, offering of wealth and service. So it doesn't read exactly like that in the Tibetan, but it's correct in the English here that it is meaning of service. Acts of service is the same as offering of service. So it says, study in the great sutras, listen to and study the great sutras, and ascertain the meaning of what vast offerings of wealth are, acts of service are, or offerings of service are. And then it says, with supreme wholehearted resolve, sincerely dedicate these offerings and acts of service before the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And this is number 13. So we find this order. We have Jayan Sheba's first. Lama Tsong-kha-pa begins with the actions of offering and attitudes of offering. Jayan Sheba adds in the continuous offering, making for a total of 3. And then we have 10 more, the order given, the time of offering, etc., making for a total of 13, according to Jayan Sheba. Jayan Sheba was very similar to a Nalanda scholar. He was a Tibetan scholar who wrote many texts and was a very great scholar.
what the Jajib Tiber Madina Suji Titu Marsitana. Timatuba in the Mariba in Hakumata.
The searching Nala, the Ngudujenda.
See, Matu Jang Teba Lama Tsong-kha-pa true book. There's sitting to each other major.
Okay.
Ulumala.
So the Lama Tsong-kha-pa wrote 2 texts on the Abhisammalamkara, the Golden Rosary texts. And Jayan Sheba was Jayan Sheba Kona.
Jajib what the sitting to each other and Drebetin, Drebun Gumaga sitting toward. Who push it, Jajib Tisha push it there.
So we find that Jayan Sheba has the only a clear commentary on this Golden Rosary. He's the textbook writer for Drepung Gomang, and he has a very clear commentary, almost like the only, but I don't want to say that, a very clear clearest or clear commentary on the Golden Rosary, and it's 2 categories of the Golden Rosary. So we don't find any Panchen Sonandrapa, we don't find commentaries in Jetsumba, we don't find commentaries, so it's just only the Jayan Sheba's commentary that we really find explaining the Golden Rosary.
Nashi Nibijin, Jisoga Nashi Nibijin, the sitting in Yibutris, Lagre, sitting in Yibutris, what the Nashi Nijin Jajin deals.
Nanshin Ninch, so Pension Sonandrapa and Jitsumba, Pension Jitsumba Nietzsche?
Pension the Jitsumba Shenda Sukanga Injit, what the Nashi Nibijin, Jisoji, Motujin, Nashi Nijin, what the sitting
so in this text, the essence of there's a text written, Rinpoche said, by Jayan Sheba and Jetsumba, which is the essence of the meaning of the Golden Rosary, but it has the essence of an abbreviated essence of the meaning, and other writers have also done this, but it's an abbreviated essence of the meaning.
Ta kon setin jeba tiba insosa larin chebel jeba khul laba pechi khabu yinete ta tu de nandu la janda what larin dalan ta ane jambe shelo to sul tu de larin chun sege mu do
Genda Yomare. So these points that are being made, that we're going over by Jayan Sheba, are very subtle and difficult. You don't find this anywhere else in any of the other commentaries, and there's many of them. We don't find this in Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand by Pabunka Rinpoche. We don't find this in The Path to Bliss by the Panchen Lama. We don't find it in the Spoken Words of Manjushri by the 5th Dalai Lama. So we don't find this information in any other text except in this commentary by Jayan Sheba. So when we look at who carefully goes over the Lamrim Chenmo, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, we would say that Jayan Sheba is the number 1 person who carefully goes over the Lamrim Chenmo and comments on it properly. So, Rinpoche said before, as you can see, this is not an easy book to comment on. So if we didn't have Jayan Sheba, we would probably be off course with the Lamrim Chenmo, or we wouldn't be able to be as straight. So now we have the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment in English, and if you students slowly go over it and read it, then you will also become great scholars in this material. So now we're done with Jayan Sheba for now. This section on the Jayan Sheba. In other is only his commentary, Jayan Sheba's commentary. We'll find this. Other commentaries we don't get the meaning of this section from.
What the Netagi Tagichiguis?
So this is why we're looking at it. But at the root, really, is the outline of the Lamrim Chenmo that we should look at as the root of our emphasis or focus is the outline in the Lamrim Chenmo. And then the root of that is the lamp for the path to enlightenment. And then the root of the lamp for the path to enlightenment is the Kangjur and the Tanjur, the pronouncements of Lord Buddha in the authentic Indian commentaries. So we look at this section on Buddhist refuge, and then we think about other religious traditions such as Christianity and Hinduism. It would probably be very similar if we look at going for refuge, the causes for going for refuge, based on that, the objects to which you go for refuge to, how one goes for refuge, and then the advices or precepts of refuge. So we would probably find a very similar thing on the other religious traditions as well. So we can see this small amount, and then we can expand upon it, the meaning of it from there. And then also information in here we can combine with the scientific thought and look at that as well. So the scientific reasoning and apply it to what has been learned and expand it as well. So these Nalanda scholars were really scientists. So all the sciences are beneficial. So that'll be it for today. Thank you everyone for your patience with my translation. Anything missing or added is a fault of my own, obviously. And let's do the concluding mandala offering, dedication prayer. Concluding mandala offering, dedication prayer. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well, with whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times. I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, all-powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso. May you stay until samsara's end. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wanda, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, the spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts, exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Tuji Rimche Gutsi Shapi Denonan.